And you had a very strange and unique experience that very few human beings have ever had, which is being in charge of a country of 10 million people when it's attacked in this horrific way. Where were you? How did you find out what was going on, and what was your immediate reaction? What did you think? What did you feel? How did you act in those moments?
Well, it was 6:29 on Shabbat, Saturday morning. Got a phone call from my military secretary informing me that we've just been invaded by Hamas. The first thing that I asked was, is it a full-scale invasion? He said, looks like it. And I said, can we get the Hamas leaders? But subsequently, I made my way to the military headquarters of Israel in Tel Aviv, called for a general call-up of our reserves, hundreds of thousands, and declared war, and then proceeded to focus on the mission of winning that war. And I can tell you that in these moments, you're really concerned with action. You're concerned with decisions. You're not, you don't wallow in the mire, as they say. You really think about what needs to be done now.
And have you and the people of Israel had time to grieve what happened, to process what happened to thousands of your people?
Okay, I just can't take it. All right. So Bibi Netanyahu recently did an interview with Triggernometry, and I thought for a while, should I even react to this or not? I feel like I have to. I feel like I have to react to this crap and just destroy the stuff, the lies he says in this interview. It's disgusting, man. It's disgusting. And just the straight up lies he says to everyone's face like it's nothing. And even these interviewers, man, like these guys did better than the Nelk boys. They came more prepared, especially the other co-host. He at least tried to push back a little bit. This guy was just straight up, man, suck up. Straight up suck up. Anyways, so did he really just ask Benjamin Netanyahu, did he get a chance to grieve the losses of life? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, I understand 1,000 civilians dying. It's not okay. How about 50 times that? 60 times that? Maybe 100 times that dying on the other side. They're all civilians. Palestinian civilians, children, women. Do they, like, you hear stories about, children, their limbs flying off, man. Bullets through the head, bullets through their genitals. All of a sudden, kids wake up, their whole families are dead. What about that processing? It really makes me realize that these people do think of themselves as better, as more important than other people. Like, I want someone to ask them straight up, do you believe your life is more important than someone else's life? Or do you believe an Israeli life is more important than a Palestinian life? Someone has to ask this question. And also, I want you to notice something else. This racist undertone is going to start from Netanyahu, where he says that dumb pig Netanyahu, where he says, oh, he's going to start calling the Palestinians, barbarians, animals, bestial. These are classic racist undertones to Muslims, man. Just make them seem backwards and uncivilized. It makes you more desensitized to the Palestinians, right? So when, all these Palestinians die, like, oh, they're animals. Literally, I mean, the fact of the matter is this is what they actually believe of them. Benjamin Netanyahu and his little extremist government, they literally think of these Palestinians as animals. Two-legged animals, they call them, grasshoppers.
To grieve, yes. To fully absorb this savagery, I think is more difficult because you seldom encounter such bestial behavior. In fact, I don't think you encounter it among beasts. I mean, the deliberate raping and murder of women, the beheading of men, the burning of babies in front of their children, the kidnapping of innocent people, grandmothers, Holocaust survivors, their grandchildren. It is savagery on a scale that we haven't seen since the Holocaust.
Oh, shut up. So that doctor who went to volunteer in Gaza, who recently interviewed with Theo Von, he said that he saw babies 85% burned. Just from the aftermath of the bombs, the shooting and all that, 85% burned babies would come to the hospital. Like, this guy's really saying they're not savage, they're not barbaric. Just because you do it behind a wall, just because you're doing it like behind a gun or, through some drone in some other part of the world, doesn't make it any less barbaric. You've killed 60,000 more people than Hamas killed.
Holocaust. And I think that...
And notice the words he used, bestial, barbarians, blah, blah, blah.
It affirmed to me that we're fighting a battle against barbarism, the battle of civilization against barbarism. And there isn't a symmetry between the two. Today, in this world of relativism, yes, of course, everybody is the same. No, we're not. We're not.
Wow, yeah, look at this guy. Yeah, no, we're better than them. You know, we are the chosen people. They're animals. They're two-legged animals. They're grasshoppers. They're trash. They're Gentiles.
The same. We don't prosecute wars that way. We don't engage in such horrors. We don't deliberately mutilate human beings.
Oh, yeah? You don't deliberately do it? That's not what all the studies show, man. That's not what all this research shows. It seems like children are getting bullet shots right through their head. That's not deliberate. Like the other day, I saw footage of this Gaza humanitarian GHR Foundation. Yeah, the basically where they're feeding all the Gaza citizens, right? People coming, walking miles and miles and miles, children walking miles. And then you see a footage of them shooting in the sky. And then one of the guys is like, "Oh, I think you got one." They're proud of it. They're celebrating it. I think he got one of them. It was an old man that they shot dead. And the other guy is like, "Yeah, man. Got it. Yeah, boy." Like, that's barbaric.
This is not what distinguishes our actions, but it distinguishes theirs. And they do it with a fiendish glee. They come with GoPro cameras.
Look what the IDF did. They killed families. They went through the underwears of these women. Like, it's just disgusting. It's low. It's low what the IDF does. Children.
This is savagery on a scale that is hard to absorb. But I'll tell you what it taught me.
What's that say? Every accusation is an admission, or every accusation is a confession, something like that?
It said to me that we're not merely fighting the battle for our survival. We're fighting the battle for civilization against barbarism. And that was true in the beginning of the war. And it's still true today, even though some in the West refuse to acknowledge it.
And
Listen, people probably fell for that argument in 2001 with September 11th. Oh, they just want us for our freedom. It doesn't work anymore. People don't buy that. It's not, oh, they just want us civilians against barbarians. No. People don't buy that. It's a foreign policy. It's the fact that you've been occupying this land for all this time, controlling everything, being extremely unfair with them. Of course, it was going to explode eventually. That was going to happen. It was human nature. Like, what the hell did you expect?
There are these interruptions because Israel is a country unlike any other. It is still surrounded by enemies committed openly and sworn openly to its destruction.
Oh, so there aren't any countries that have to live next to their enemies. So Saudi Arabia and Iran, India, Pakistan, Ireland and the UK. Oh, come on. You're not the only country. It's not one country like any other. Actually, nowadays it is just because of how they treat the Palestinians. I can't think of any other country that barbaric that has the military grade equipment that Israel has. I can't think of any other, like the disbalance of power here is insane. I can't think of any other country that has that. At least Pakistan and India, they're both nuclear powers, right? Like Ireland and the UK is not that big anymore, but at least there's some level of equality there.
And therefore, it has to be vigilant and protecting itself constantly. And that's the first role of the Prime Minister of Israel.
And since October the 7th, your forces have obviously taken control of significant swathes of Gaza. Your intelligence operatives have secured caches of documents and information, phone calls, intercepts, etc. What do you now know about how this happened, why it was able to happen, including, you know, what happened on the Israeli side to make this possible? What do we now know about October the 7th that we did not know on October the 8th?
Well, what happened on the Israeli side needs to be investigated by an impartial commission because it should be investigated top down, Prime Minister down to the last.
There you go. Beautiful deflection, beautiful pivot. Oh, you know, it has to be investigated. Why is it that the IDF knew about this attack incoming, but they were told to stand by? Oh, was it so we can go and attack Gaza full scale? I don't know. We'll have to investigate that. Fact of the matter is, Israel, there's like a million things Israel said they would go investigate. You never find out what happened. You never find out. Like all these attacks on hospitals and all these mistaken shots to civilians and children and, you know, these journalists, the IDF will be under investigation. We will investigate this, find out what happened. You're never going to find out. You're never going to find out. And the whole October 7th, why they knew about this and they took no action, we're not going to find out what happened.
pertinent official or a military person. That has to be done. But right now, what we do know and what we learned is that this was part of the Iranian terror axis. Iran had built this network of proxies.
I also want you to notice this now. You're going to notice this throughout the interview. Benjamin Netanyahu is slowly sowing the seeds of two things I've noticed. One, the West Bank is next. He made the PLO an enemy now. So Gaza and Hamas, that's pretty much done. They got rid of them. They destroyed the land. West Bank and the PLO. The PLO, I believe, is in charge of the West Bank, right? So they're next. He compares them to Hamas at one point in this interview. So you're already starting to see the seeds being planted here. The other thing is he's going to demolish Iran. They're next. They're the last country that he hasn't demolished yet. They are definitely next. And, I hope we don't go to war with them. I really hope we don't go to war with them.
With the goal of annihilating Israel by a simultaneous invasion from the south with Hamas, from the north with Hezbollah in Lebanon, with simultaneous pelleting of Israel massively with ballistic missiles, with rockets from their various proxies, not only Lebanon and Gaza, but also from the Houthis in Yemen, from militias, Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria, and from Iran itself. So this was meant to be a simultaneous surprise attack that would hobble Israel and destroy it.
I know this might feel like a strange question, but I do think it's important. And it's a question many people are asking, is you clearly have incredible penetration of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard in Iran. You have incredible penetration of Hezbollah. I don't know how embedded your operatives were within Gaza and Hamas. How did your intelligence services not see this coming? I mean, you've talked often about the fact that the London Underground is smaller than the tunnel network in Gaza. How come you didn't know? And if you did, how come it was not a red flag that all of this was about to happen?
Well, this was probably the only decent question that this fella asked. However, the answer is just so typical. And it's like, a part of me wonders, is there even a point listening to Benjamin Netanyahu talk? Because all of his answers, he already has all the points. He's a very talented debater, very talented speaker. And that's why he's made it this long as Israel's PM. He already has all of his answers prepared. He knows what he has to say.
All of that, I think, will be answered by this impartial investigation. But I think part of it was a mindset that said that Hamas is deterred and Hamas is not going to do it. And that's a very big part of it. But on day 2 of the war, I said when Hezbollah joined after day 1, they joined day 2. And I said, we will change the face of the Middle East. Because for me, it was very clear that we were not only fighting Hamas, but we were fighting Iran with its various proxies.
So we have to destroy Iran. And could you see the arrogance in this guy? Instead of trying to make peace with your neighbors, this guy's literally going out bombing everyone like a madman. This guy's a killer. This guy's a devil, man. He's like Satan. Like, look at this guy's face. The fact that this dude bombed like 5 countries in the last few months, and then he's getting the U.S. to do his dirty business for him. It's disgusting. I think if the U.S. stopped funding him, he would come back to reality and actually be forced to negotiate with the neighbors instead of just bombing the crap out of everyone.
This noose of death that they wanted to strangle us with. And I think that that's the larger understanding that everybody has today. I don't think many people believed me at the time, but it was obvious to me that it's not enough to hit very hard, hit Hamas and hobble Hezbollah, but that we'd have to deal also with their sponsors and the larger axis that made this possible. So I think those lessons have been learned, certainly by Israel, and by acting against Iran's terror axis, which is meant to ultimately to conquer the West. That's what these people think. That's what they believe in.
I really hope people don't believe this anymore. This is the same bullcrap they did in September 11th and 2001. Oh, they just want to take over the West. Like, come on. Do you really think Hamas is trying to take over America? Like, I hope no one's that stupid anymore. No, they just want the freaking land, man. That's all they want. Like, that's it. They just want to have a home, some freedom. That's what the Palestinians want.
It's irrational. You say, do you believe that? Can you believe that people would actually think we'd deliver death to America and we'd destroy Europe? No, they couldn't possibly mean that. Well, what do you think? Do you think they mean it or not?
Well, they keep chanting it, so I'm tempted to believe them.
Well, here's the thing: they keep chanting it, but there's not much action from them. They don't have the capability. Who has the capability and who's actually killing like the whole civilization? This guy Netanyahu literally killed the whole civilization in Gaza. Like it's level, dude. Most likely under the rubble. I mean, when we do all the counting and everything, it's probably over 100,000 people dead. Maybe even 200,000. We have no idea. No one's allowed to go there. The only reason we have some number of counting is that that's what the hospital counted. So those are just the people that came to the hospital. And the other thing is, ask Israel how many people died. They have no idea.
Yes.
So when you believe them, exactly the point. When you believe them, then since I believed it, I think that what we had to do was ultimately take on Iran itself. And of course, on day 2, after you suffered the worst attack on Jews since the Holocaust, it may seem, a ridiculous goal, an imaginary goal. No, it wasn't. It was very clear. We'll turn back. Israel will recover very quickly, and fight back and demolish Hamas, and then demolish Hezbollah, and then demolish the Assad regime, and then hit very strongly, hit Iran.
You saw what he did there, right? Demolish, and then hit really hard Iran. You already know the fact that Iran came under that same sentence. He wants to demolish Iran. I think we all saw that. He wants to demolish it, destroy it, just like he did to all the other countries. Unbelievable.
In ways that surprised the world. And I'm very proud of the people of Israel who stood fast, and I'm very proud of the soldiers of Israel. I call this.
Yeah, little soldiers of Israel would be nothing without American weapons. Get that out of your head. Like your IDF is nothing without American weapons.
Incredible 12-day war with Iran. I call it the Rising Lion operation. And I did that because in the Bible it says that the people of Israel will rise like lions. And that's exactly what our soldiers did.
Let's see how courageous and lion they are when they don't have American weapons and American funding and American protection with the Iron Dome. Let's see how much of a lion they are then. The Palestinians are the lions here, man. These people are civilians just looking for food. They're brave. They know they could die. They're still going out. They still got heart. They're still hanging out with their family, man. They're still trying to be happy. The kids are still laughing and playing, even though they got nothing. They're the real courageous ones. They're the lions. They're just hiding.
And I'm very proud of them.
Before Francis takes over, I have one more question. I think even your worst critics wouldn't deny the incredible success you have had in taking down the Iranian proxies and Iran's capabilities itself. But one of the things that we have heard here in the West, and I wanted to get your perspective on it, is that in the run-up to what happened on October 7th, for many, many years, Israel was allowing, the Israeli government was allowing Qatar to pump money into Hamas and using that, in effect, to strengthen Hamas against the Palestinian Authority to prevent a united Palestinian state. What do you say to those claims?
Well, I think it's hogwash. I mean, we're stuck with Hamas. I was actually against leaving Gaza and resigned from the government when it did so, when it decided to tear out the settlements, because...
Hold on, buddy. Wait, you didn't resign? I thought you lost. I thought you lost the election.
As I said, this will be overtaken by Hamas, and Hamas will use it as a platform, will use Gaza, a de facto Palestinian state in Gaza, to pellet us with missiles and rockets, the surrounding cities. This was poo-pooed by the government at the time. I thought it was insane. But once they gave up Gaza, that's exactly what happened. Hamas took it over and turned it into a terror bastion. And the question was, what do you do with it? Well, there were various theories. One of it was that you have to aid the civilian population in such a way that you don't have diseases. So you've got to take care of the sewage, you've got to take care of electricity, you've got to make sure there's no famine there. And that was the policy that advocated giving money, which was partial money, by the way. Of all the money, the billions that went into Gaza, this was a fraction, and it was monitored. So it didn't really make the difference. And it also, what did they do with the billions that they got? Not from Qatar. The billions that they got, they built a terror city underneath, terror tunnels. Have you been to Gaza? Have you seen it?
No.
You're both welcome to come, and I'll make sure that you have a chance to see it. But you got to.
Ha 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 ha! Few things I want to say here. So you're both welcome to come and see Gaza. All right. You think he's really gonna give him a real tour of Gaza, or it's gonna be a nice whitewashed version where everything looks nice and clean in Israel, and then you do go to Gaza, you just see a bunch of these terrorist, barbarian looking people, and it's all guided tours and everything. And yeah, Israel just announced they have a budget, and they're trying to get a lot more YouTube influencers to come to Israel just to change the narrative, because YouTube has become like this hot pot of anti-Israel propaganda, as they like to call it. And he didn't really answer the question. Did he fund Hamas to divide up the Palestinians so that they don't unite or not? He didn't answer that part. And also, like, the, did he fund it or not? Did he not say that he's gonna, we should fund it so we can control the flame of this fire? He said all of these things. He knows he said it. And these journalists should have pushed back on that.
See the unseen underground city that they did. So they built tunnels with the vast aid that they got from elsewhere. I didn't believe that Hamas was going to make peace with us. I thought Hamas had to be constantly cut back. I myself, of the 4 military operations that we had since the rise of Hamas, since its takeover of Gaza, I led 3 operations to cut them down, not to accommodate them, killed some of their senior leaders. But there was a question whether we had the consensus, both national and international, to go into Gaza and wipe them out. And the answer was we didn't have it. After October 7th, that changed. We had that consensus, at least for a while, until the Western leaders buckled. But that doesn't change our understanding that we have to get rid of Hamas.
Wow, the arrogance of this guy, man. So the leaders that fund you, the leaders that give you your money, the leaders that give you your weapons and all this protection and political protection and vetoing and all this stuff, you're just in an interview saying, "Oh, they're basically cowards." Dang, you got a lot of confidence, man. A lot of confidence and a lot of arrogance. They think they're the superpower here.
monsters.
Prime Minister, you've just used the words the Western leaders buckled, and I'm assuming what you're referring to is Keir Starmer's statement on the 25th of July, where he said that the UK would recognise a Palestinian state. What is your response to that? And do you think that is just going to essentially encourage Hamas to continue their resistance?
Yeah, of course it does. I mean, look, they commit the greatest savagery against Jews since the Holocaust. And
what about the savagery you committed on them? 50 times that. 50 times that. No one's, denying the Holocaust or anything, and like it was a tragedy, sure. But how about 50 to 60 times that you've done on them? When is enough?
And the Prime Minister of Britain
Does one life matter more than the other? That's all I want to know.
says we'll reward you with a de facto state, which is what? Which is committed openly to repeating the October 7th massacre over and over and over again.
Again, you committed the October 7th massacre 60 times over on them. So you are actually the one. They committed all sorts of stuff. You are actually the one who's done it over and over and over again 60 times.
And they say, well, no, look, we recognize Israel's right to defend itself. They always add that. You hear that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
of
okay.
Course.
Well, they recognize Israel's right to defend itself as long as Israel doesn't exercise that right. So now let's imagine what would be the response of Britain.
Disgusting joke, no reason to laugh. Israel definitely exercises that right. That's all they've been doing for 2 years. Are you serious? Like, the amount of gaslighting here is just insane.
Well, in your case, about 15,000 people or 10,000 people would be butchered in one day, and you'd have, 2,500 hostages taken. Would you say, oh, well, we should give our attackers a state right next to London? Of course not. What would the Americans say if you had 50,000 Americans butchered, okay, and thousands of Americans taken hostage?
Someone tell Netanyahu, you're not in charge of America. You're not America. You're a tiny little country who's dependent on America. So watch yourself. You're not us. Stop trying to be like us.
Obviously, they'd say, no, we're not going to give them a state, sort of not in New Jersey, but right in Manhattan, that's ridiculous. So what the standard that is being applied is not merely wrong. It's just downright dangerous, because you're really rewarding these monstrous terrorists with the greatest prize, and that's because of weakness. It's weakness. It's weakness in the face of distorted media, of packed social networks, packed with bots, B-O-U-G-H-T, B-O-T-S, bots.
Yeah, yes, I'm a bot. Yes, that's exactly what I am. I'm not a human. No. People commenting in my comments, they're not human either. They're bots.
But it's also these radical minorities which are protesting there. And by the way, you should ask your Starmer. Here's a suggestion. Ask him, okay?
What do you mean by radical minorities? Hold on. What does that mean?
What do these protesters say about Britain? I know what they say about Israel. Israel has to be destroyed from the river to the sea,
Hey, man. Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party. Someone should read that charter. What did it say? Oh, Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea? There's going to be all Israel? Okay. Just making sure.
You'd think this is a massive continent. It's all of 30, 40 miles, okay? But what do they say about Britain? Well, Britain should go down. What do they say about the UK? And the same for the protesters in the US. They burn Israeli flags, they burn American flags, and they burn the UK flag. So they're basically a hostile minority supporting monstrosities. And I think that it's shameful.
Is it a minority, though, when every Democrat in America has transitioned from being pro-Israel to anti-Israel and against what Israel's been doing? Israel has lost support in America from virtually every single demographic.
The way that the Western leaders in Britain, in France, in Canada, in New Zealand, the way they buckle under. They don't have, Europe has gone through the destruction of the Jews. 80 years later, that's what they have to say. They attack the Jewish state and they give a prize for those who would destroy the one and only Jewish state.
Look at this guy biting the hand that feeds him, man. Like, all these countries fund Israel, and he's like, yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and criticize. This guy is so just entitled. That's the word I'm looking for, entitled.
Shameful.
But, Prime Minister, they would say that the amount of casualties that have now been inflicted upon the Palestinian people, the suffering that the Palestinian civilians are going through, that Israel has achieved practically all of its aims. And if Israel continues to perpetuate this war, what it's going to do is it's going to radicalize the population even more so. The more population gets radicalized, the more that joins Hamas. So essentially what Israel will be trapped in is a forever war. What do you say to that argument?
I think the forever war is the opposite. I think if we leave them there and they're committed to our destruction, then you'll have a forever war. But what is happening on the ground is actually the opposite. What is happening on the ground is we now have Gazans who are fighting Hamas because they see now in the closing phase of this war, after we had to go through these 7 fronts against all the proxies and Iran itself, and now we're circling back to finish off Hamas and demolish its last stronghold in Gaza. They see hope. They say, don't let up. Gazans, they kill Hamas. They fight Hamas. They die fighting them. And they're saying, this is our final hope to free ourselves from this tyranny. This tyranny that has caused them endless suffering.
I don't know if any Gazan says that. I don't know. I just don't buy it, man. I think they're too worried about just getting fed. I think they're starving. I don't think they have the luxury to worry about next week because they're just trying to find out how to eat today.
And it has not invested a penny of the billions that they received for the people of Gaza. So quite the opposite. It's free. We're fighting. You hear this slogan, "Free Gaza"? I agree. Free Gaza from Hamas terror. Free Gaza from Hamas tyranny. Now, as far as Israel's performance on the battlefield, this is the fraud. It's not merely the starvation fraud. It's the genocide fraud. If we wanted to commit genocide, we would have done it in one afternoon. We have the capacity, but we don't do that.
You wouldn't have been able to do it. The PR would be a nightmare for you in Israel, and it would definitely be a nightmare for the PR team. And also, what do you mean that it's fraud that you guys are starving the Palestinians? Literally, it's shown. There's literally people that are News agencies are talking about this. How are you going to just deny it? We see pictures. Literally, we see pictures of people waiting for food, starving.
Look at the way the Allied forces fought in Fallujah. You know, look at the way they fought in Mosul. It took them 9 months against 3,000 terrorists. 9 months, 3,000 terrorists. We faced 10 times the number of terrorists.
Well, you're also still fighting. It's been like 2 years, right? 2 years almost.
And what do? We call up the Palestinian civilians and we say, leave the area. No, millions of text messages, millions of individual phone calls. Please get out.
Oh, that's so cute. That's so sweet. Where do they go? Where do they go? Israel closed one side, Egypt closed the other. Like they go to a safe zone, they get blown up to pieces over there too. Where the heck do they go?
And Hamas stands there and tries to prevent them by shooting them.
Then why don't you open the door to Israel then? Why don't you do that?
Killing them. So what do you think? Is that genocide? No, it isn't. You know it isn't. And yet Israel is being blamed. And of course, the ratio of combatants to non-combatants killed is about 1.5 to 1, which is probably, I think every civilian death is a tragedy.
Oh, see the lies. Okay. Well, at this point, the journalists should have definitely asked them how many civilians have been killed or how many Hamas people have been killed, because the Israelis seem to have no answer for that. He said there's a ratio. What's the number? Let's hear it. Tell the world.
We do everything we can, as no army has done in history in such dense urban warfare, to prevent it. But Israel can't be, it's not merely that it can't be held to a higher standard. It's held to an impossible standard. I mean, look at the Allies in World War II. You know what they did when they went into Congo? Do you know, Constantine? Do you know? What did they do? Tell me, what did they do? Did they call civilians to leave? Did they give them, caravans of food? Did anything of that like that happen? No.
Well, let's be honest, and this is an argument I've made myself. At the end of World War II, we flattened Germany because they made us, because we had to destroy the military infrastructure, the transportation infrastructure to actually be able to win the war. But we live in a very different age now, don't we, Prime Minister, where...
Yeah, where you're not actually fighting another military. You have a state-of-the-art first world military, and you're fighting against people with, like, not even a fraction of that. And mainly civilians, women and children.
All the atrocities of war are instantly available to everybody around the world on social media. And that is something you said in your own press conference last week when you said, when you were asked whether Israel is winning the PR war, you said we're definitely not. And that's putting it very mildly.
So it's very hard to fight the deception, the lies, the starved children. The pictures of starved children are turned out to have cerebral palsy or other.
That's so stupid. So they're saying there's this picture of a starving child who is starving. And it's like, oh, the child actually has cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is something in your brain. It doesn't make you starving. It doesn't, like, what the heck? You can be cerebral palsy and still be overweight. Like, it has nothing to do with that. So that child might have had cerebral palsy, but he is also starving too. You could have both.
General diseases that leave them emaciated, and Israel is, of course, accused of starving children, pretty much the way that in the Middle Ages Jews were accused of killing Christians.
There we go. The anti-Semitism. Oh, it's anti-Semite. You're being anti-Semitic by saying that we're starving kids. It's just... the gaslighting is just heartbreaking. It's honestly just heartbreaking.
Children for their blood. So, what do you do against the lie that circles the earth 10 times before the truth has a chance to emerge? You have to shorten the war as speedily as possible.
Again, Benjamin Netanyahu just kind of exposed their little tactic here. So a lie goes around the world 10 times before the truth is put out there. That's exactly what they do. They lie about, oh my God, these children in the ovens and beheaded babies in the ovens and all these different things. They lie about everything just so by the time the truth comes out, it's too late. People already heard the news. They already made up their mind. Oh my God, Hamas bad, Palestinians are barbarians, Israel's good, they're like us. And they just move on with their lives. And meanwhile, by the time the truth comes out, it's like, oh, no one's really talking about it anymore. Like I said, every accusation is a confession.
And frankly, we also have to do something about the algorithms and the social networks. This is a big challenge. I don't want to dismiss it. But look,
Think about how much power and arrogance this guy has. He's trying to say that, oh yeah, all these news are fake news and we should change the algorithm on these social media networks. Like, who are you? You're some dude in Israel. How are you able to say what we should do in American policy on our social medias? Like, how can you even recommend that? That's none of your business. This is our business.
We Jews have been fighting and losing the propaganda war for about 2,500 years.
Oh, really? Someone go check out who owns all the media companies.
Well, what's different now is that we're winning the ground war. We're forcing, what comes after the propaganda vilification is massacres, and what we're doing now, massacres that we were completely defenseless with. Right now, after the vilifications come the attacks, but we're winning those attacks. That's the change. And the faster we win, I think the faster the propaganda war will dissipate.
There are critics of yours, Prime Minister, who will say, well, part of the reason that Israel is losing the propaganda war is when you have ministers like Smotrich making incendiary or inflammatory comments, and there doesn't seem to be any particular pushback from your government to this. They go, well, what does the Prime Minister really believe?
Well, what I believe I say. In a parliamentary system, people are free to say. Sometimes they say things they don't quite mean. It happens all the time. It happens in any parliamentary system, as you know, and it happens in Britain too. But I think that on the whole, the government is united. Most of the people are united, not all. You have a very active fringe.
Prime Minister, forgive me, but these aren't parliamentarians. These are people who are part of your government, and they remain part of your government after they say these things that to many people, even your friends, sound a little bit like ethnic cleansing is being discussed.
Well,
because Benjamin Netanyahu actually believes it, and he agrees with them on many of these things. And the fact of the matter is that I've heard this, I haven't had a chance to go back and check, but if you listen to Benjamin Netanyahu's speeches in Hebrew, they actually resemble very closely to what the rest of his government says.
We're not discussing ethnic cleansing, and to the extent that we have these conversations around the cabinet, the security cabinet, that is actually not being discussed by these people. But they have disagreements with me. That's part of a parliamentary coalition, and they can leave. And in fact,
there's disagreements, there's levels to it. Like, part of your government literally recommending ethnic cleansing, like killing all these people and getting rid of them. That's pretty harsh, man. That's pretty crazy. You can't just brush that off as difference of opinion. That's getting rid of a whole people.
Some of them have left the government in the course of this war. They came back because they disagreed with my decisions on hostage negotiations. They left, or they voted against, or they did both. And that's common. And to describe this as anything but unique, this is a democracy. I think there too, come on, understand, very well how that works in Britain and how it works elsewhere. I don't condone the idea of the ethnic cleansing. I don't seek to occupy Gaza.
Wait a minute. When was this interview put out? Because didn't he say that wasn't there a resolution passed in Israel just recently that they're going to take over Gaza? Is that not occupying Gaza? Come on, man. Come on.
And, settle.
These people just lie to your face and no one questions it. Well, like, why isn't anyone asking that question?
I think that our goal there is to make sure that we have a security belt, a security cordon, which will probably...
But Prime Minister, may I just interrupt? When you have your finance minister making a speech and talking about occupying Gaza, and there doesn't seem to be any pushback within the government, people quite rightly, in my opinion, would say, well, surely aren't you condoning that type of rhetoric?
No.
And it's exacerbating Israel's PR problem.
I disagree completely. When somebody says that, and I'm asked, is that your policy? And I said, no, it's not my policy. I don't intend to build settlements or communities in Gaza, and not Israeli ones. I want a non-Israeli civilian governance after that is committed to living in peace with us and doesn't...
There's always that qualifier, after something is done. After something is done. And that something is never going to happen, because once you get that something, the goalpost moves. This has been the oldest trick in the book, man. They've been doing this for like 80 years.
Don't terror, educate their children to terror, finance terror, or launch terror, which is what Hamas does, and frankly, what the Palestinian Authority would do too. So we're not going that route. But I don't want to build Israeli communities there, and I've said it openly. And they asked me, Your minister of finance says this, and what do you say? Well, I say, I disagree with him. And I say that, he's entitled to say his things. That's not ethnic cleansing. It's a view. It's a legitimate view, which I happen to disagree with. But I can tell you that I think there, too, the statements that nullify and challenge the various lies that are leveled at us, you just can't keep up with it. It's like a flood. I'm too busy winning the war, sometimes winning the actual war, to debunk every single lie that is put against us or against me. You're vilified, you're a war criminal, you're a demon, you're demonized all the time. And it just say, noise, put that aside, win the war, win it judiciously, use just means, and have in a just war that you have to win if you're going to live and survive in this very brutal era. And let me tell
Yeah, real just, man. How does this man sleep at night? Just killing women and children, not seeing. Does he not? I wonder if he sees the videos and the footage coming out.
you, we will win it.
Because what you're saying, and look, I have a sympathy with what you're saying. Of course I do. But when you say that this is just noise, I would strongly push back against that, Prime Minister, because if you look at particularly Gen Z and the younger generation's opinions of view on Israel, they are, to put it mildly, Prime Minister, deeply unfavourable. And those kids now, they are going to be the next ones to go into politics. They're going to be the next decision makers. That must present you with a very real worry that Israel will not enjoy the same level of support, particularly from the US, that it has once done when those kids come to be the decision makers.
Well,
that was actually a great question. Respect to that guy for actually pushing back. And that was a great question because I believe the same thing. I believe by the time Gen Z gets into politics, it's a wrap for Israel. The fact of the matter is if Israel goes at the pace it's going at today, there won't be a Gaza or a West Bank. There might not even be like Iran, man. Like real talk.
ask them in Britain and ask them in the US what they think of Britain and the US. What do they think? And what are they saying? There's a big campaign, and it's organized and systemic, and it's...
What does that even mean? Like, okay, even if, let's say, they criticize America, so they're still going to be running the politics, bro, in like 10, 15, 20 years. Like, what are you going to do about that?
Financed to tear away traditional elements of support from Israel. It's not just happening by itself. A lot of it is organized. And if it's organized, you can counter it too at the appropriate time. You just have to concentrate your attention to it. And I agree with you that it's an important point. And I'll tell you what they're saying. They're saying, for example, those in America are saying, we're pro-American. You're pro-American? And you attack Israel that is fighting the people who try to assassinate President Trump twice, not once.
We don't need Israel to fight that battle. Trust me. If that was the case, the American can take care of it on its own. It's not a problem.
Who bombed American embassies, who murdered 241 American Marines in Beirut, who murdered and wounded thousands of Americans in Iraq and Afghanistan with Iranian IEDs. Iran that chants death to America, death to the traitors, to the heathen, and so on. This is the people you support, and in fact, that's where the support. Not only that, you heard some other outlandish things that they do. I mean, they're some of their most prominent spokesmen. They say, well, Netanyahu is trying to drag Trump into a war. Did you hear that? You hear that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, okay. And what do I want to do? Because I want ground troops, American ground troops, boots on the ground, to conquer Iran and bring about regime change and all that nonsense. And thank God President Trump has proven an exceptional friend of Israel, an exceptional leader.
This guy Netanyahu is playing a different game than Trump. Trump is playing checkers. Netanyahu is playing chess. All he's doing is just gassing up Trump. Oh, Trump is such a great leader. He's the best of our time. And it just gets to Trump's ego, and Trump does whatever he wants. And he's also paid out by the Adelsons.
And he did exactly the right action, the precise action, using American power, and came in, I think, in a very forceful but judicious way. I think we've been very fortunate to have a leader in the United States who doesn't act.
No, we're not all fortunate. You are fortunate.
Like the European leaders, who doesn't succumb to this stuff. But if you're telling me that there's work to be done on Gen Z,
ask you about the future. And I know that if I say to you, well, what does the future of Gaza look like? You're going to say, we got to destroy Hamas. We agree. You're going to say, we want the hostages back. We agree. You're going to say, we got to demilitarize Gaza so they can't do October the 7th again. We agree. And then you're going to say, and then we need a civilian government in Gaza that's not hostile to Israel. And that's where you lose me, Prime Minister, because I look at the opinion polls. I look at the people celebrating October the 7th in Gaza. I look at the fact that thousands of civilians crossed into Israel on October the 7th to commit the atrocities that were committed. And I go, these people hate you. They hate you, they hate Israel, and they hate Jews. How are you going to have a peaceful coexistence with those people, particularly given the fact that, as Francis mentioned earlier, they have been very heavily radicalized, not only through the education system, but through the fact that they've been on the receiving end on Israel's war effort?
This question just pisses me off. It's only the last part that he said. That's the only true part. The only reason there's any hatred is because they were on the receiving end of everything that happened. And they're on the receiving end of everything, right? And go look at the polls in Israel. See what they have to say about the people in Gaza and the Palestinians. That'd be very interesting, wouldn't it? Like, you think Netanyahu's a prime minister just cause? No. The majority of the state believes in what he does. And if you think the children in Israel aren't radicalized, then you got some explaining to do, bro. Because there's a lot of Jews out there, man, that spit on these Christians and stuff, these travelers. A lot of videos you see online. I don't know.
Well, I think what you're pointing out to is that you need also a program of de-radicalization. Now, has that been done in societies that have been conditioned to hate their adversaries? Yes, of course, it's been done in two places prominently, in Japan and in Germany, but it's also been done in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there have been very noteworthy programs, successful programs of de-radicalization in some of the Gulf states, which are actually proving to be to break the this prototype of Arab societies that cannot seize the future. I'm not saying they're model democracies, mind you, they're not, but they certainly want to seize modernity and not go back to the savage and early medievalism that the Islamic fundamentalists want to drag us all
Look at the medievalism of the chosen people.
to. So I think that there's a need for de-radicalization. It has to be part of the reconstruction of Gaza. You not only reconstruct Gaza, you also de-radicalize Gaza. It's going to be a heavy lift, but it's necessary, and it can be done.